Women's Wellness Authority is your go-to podcast for discovering the hidden gems of holistic health and well-being. In each episode, we dive deep into the many layers of wellness, from mental and physical health to spiritual growth. Through insightful interviews with experts, healers, and thought leaders, we uncover alternative approaches, healing practices, and fresh perspectives that empower you to transform your life. Whether you're seeking innovative ways to heal your body, your mind, or nourish your soul, this podcast offers practical tools and wisdom to help you thrive in all areas of your life. Let's rewrite the rules of wellness together. Step into your power, reclaim your health, and discover what it means to truly thrive from the inside out. Welcome, everyone. I'm your host, Diana, and today we're exploring a topic that doesn't get nearly the attention it deserves, and that is minerals. You've heard of vitamins and supplements, but many have not heard of the importance of minerals in your body. And they're what we're calling the unsung heroes of health. And today we're going to give them the spotlight. Our guest, Katie Linden, is a holistic nutritionist and therapeutic wellness coach with a rich background in health and wellness. She holds a bachelor's in exercise science and nutrition and also an MSW from NYU. Katie began her career as an exercise physiologist and physical therapy assistant before transitioning into social work and psychotherapy, where she gained experience in addressing complex emotional and mental health challenges. Katie's personal journey has led her to base her practice on nutrition, so the gut and brain connection, which we'll talk about in a little bit, holistic modalities for healing, and wellness coaching. And since 2010, she has specialized in holistic nutrition and focuses on mineral balancing and functional labs to create personalized health protocols. Katie, thank you so much for joining us today.
I'm so happy to be here.
So I think for today's discussion, we're going to explore a little bit about why minerals matter, how they influence everything from hormones to energy, and what happens when they're out of sync. Whether you're feeling a little off, you can't figure out why, struggling with skin issues, hormone imbalances, or just curious about how to support your body at a deeper level, this episode is for you. So, Katie, before we dig into minerals themselves, I'm curious how you came to love these unsung heroes.
It's a long journey to get here. I'm a root cause kind of girl, and it's really been my journey, even since a young child when I got probably not so healthy, and, to understand what is health, about weight, body image. There was that whole journey, right? But basically, by the time I got to college, I just wanted to understand, how does the body work then? Like, how can I just help it do what it's supposed to do if all these things I'm doing are doing it wrong? So that's where it starts. And I dive into exercise physiology and nutrition. I specialized in cardiac rehabilitation and the heart, and it was fascinating. And I absolutely loved it. I became a personal trainer. I was always experimenting on myself, and I still continue to, whether it's a certain type of workout or it's a fad.
Same, yeah.
Right? And a fad in the diet world. So whether it was like the low fat, high carb, or, whatever it may be, I've done it all. And I know, gosh, I always think that was so not good. I was a college athlete and that did not help things. But anyway, I've just always been interested in keeping up with the current research and fads, because honestly, we live in this world of nutritionism, and there's always a new thing. And I think that's some of the frustration. And now we have so much access, right, to influencers and social media and researchers and doctors, and they give great information, but we leave overwhelmed.
Yes, for sure.
Right. And also throwing lots of things at something and then going, I don't know what's working, but I don't feel much better. Or and I'm guilty of this, I've taken all this stuff and I've done all this, but I don't really know what's doing what. Just doing all of that, I ended up with a side career in the music industry, came through personal training, and that was interesting. And it really got me more focusing on psychology. And I was always interested in that. And I went back, actually on 9/11 was my first day of social work school.
Wow.
Yes, we didn't have it, but the next day we did. But that's my delve into psychiatry and mental health. And then 2010, around then is when I started getting back to my roots and, re-engaging with the research and nutrition. And that was the gut-brain connection. And I was like, I really have to leave traditional medicine to be able to serve people in the way I think I can really do better for them, which is to look at the whole body and look at the gut and nutrition and spirituality and energy and your thoughts and all of it. And so that's kind of how I got to there. And then since then, there's even been tons of trends in nutrition. And I think what I've learned in the last maybe 3-4 years is minerals. And, we talk about vitamins, right? Like, are you supplementing? Did you take vitamin C? Did you take zinc? Are you taking vitamin D3? Are you taking K2? Are you megadosing your magnesium? Are you like what, right? We're always talking about that. And magnesium is a mineral, but we'll talk about that. But I didn't understand that they are the absolute spark plugs and building blocks to the cell's health. So if you really want to get to the root of how the body works, it has to be fueled by minerals. And these minerals, it's not just that we take them in, it's how we absorb them and they get into the blood, but they're intracellular. So those minerals need to be in the cell. You know what I mean? So that's
and without that balance, you always like to find the root cause, right? So, and we'll talk about that, how you can kind of get to the root cause of some main things by just looking at the combination of minerals together. And it's just so fascinating. So the unsung heroes of health, what are the core minerals that we should be focused on, or a better understanding of?
Right. So the 4 core minerals are calcium, magnesium, sodium, and potassium. And they do so much so that in my training as a hair tissue mineral analysis, that's a lab you can do. It looks at the hair, take it from the root, and it gives you a pattern of your biology over the past 2 to 3 months. And I just like to explain that because blood labs give us a moment in time. And it's great to correlate. But again, when we're talking about minerals, and minerals are intracellular, they should be in the cell. They shouldn't be in the blood so much. It shows for each mineral, magnesium should be 99% in the cell. So if you're doing blood labs, sometimes it can tell us a little something, but it's not really giving us a full picture of minerals in particular. So when we're doing the lab and looking at someone's protocol, what I'm really looking at are those 4 core minerals and how can we find balance? Like, for example, calcium's not just for bones. So calcium controls our nervous system, muscle contractions. It's one of the main minerals fueling our thyroid.
Calcium is.
Yes, calcium.
Okay, I'm writing that down.
No, right? We all need that.
Yeah.
And when calcium's too high in the tissue, it can actually block thyroid hormone, and it can also get stored in soft tissue. That's calcification. So that could be joint pain. It can be, again, thyroid issues. It could be clogged arteries. It could be gallstones. It could be skin issues. So that's when we're storing the calcium versus it getting to be used, right? And how does it get used? It gets used because it's in balance with the other minerals usually. And some of the ways people might feel if the calcium is not regulated might be brain fog, emotionally kind of flat, hypothyroid symptoms, even if your labs look normal. So that's all the thing. Oh, my labs are normal, but I don't feel normal.
Yeah.
So the calcium's fascinating. If we have super high calcium, which I see sometimes, it creates a calcium shell around the cell. And it's amazing how our bodies are designed. That's very typical to happen in times of trauma. It's kind of that shock, so we numb out so we can function. But if we remain that way, because we're in constant real trauma and stress, that becomes a problem, right? Because if it's blocking cell permeability, you're not going to get nutrients in, waste not going to get out of the cell. So calcium is just amazing.
Is that if you have a high level of calcium?
Calcium excreted. So for me, hair tissue labs are a level of loss. It's a level of what is it being excreted in soft tissue, and hair is the measurement. And there's a normal rate of loss. Like this lab is over 50 years old, by the way. It's been used a long time. The research is incredible. But so if I'm seeing someone with that super duper high calcium, that means 2 things. One, the calcium's on board. They're eating it in their diet. They're getting it, but it is not getting into the cell. The body can't use it, and it's getting shuttled out into the soft tissue. So when I see that, then I know to ask somebody about maybe trauma and stress, that those feelings of flatness, being numbed out. So it's fascinating. And also, if your calcium's super low, you might have insomnia, allergies, anxiety, racing thoughts. So calcium, it's not for bones. And it's an electrical conductor. So there's also this other connection we have.
Calcium is?
Yes. It's because think about our hearts and we're rhythm, right? We are energetic beings. You can see it on the EKG of the hearts. It brings me back to college when I worked in cardiac rehab, and I would monitor patients pre and post, surgeries for heart surgeries and the electrical charge, right? So you think of that because I don't know about you, but it's not common for us to think about we are electrical beings plugging into the wall like our lights and this computer's working, but that's, we get it from the earth and the ground and the air and all the things, but we're electrical beings. So calcium is conductive, and there are interesting studies that show if we have a little too much calcium, we are more conductive to things like the EMFs, electromagnetic frequencies from our devices and the Wi-Fi and all that. So that's a whole other thing we talk about. But calcium is really interesting because it controls our nervous system and the muscle contractions, which is our heart.
Yeah. Okay. What about magnesium?
Magnesium, we love it. It does over 3,000 enzymatic reactions in the body. It's like considered the heart mineral. It's your master relaxer. It's an inflammation reducer. Without it, we have poor stress response. So it's really popular, and we know we are chronically deficient because we burn through it. So you guys, it's always important to understand with our minerals, right? We don't make it. We need to constantly.
I was going to ask that. Like, does our body naturally make those things, or we ingest those through our food? Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons we're deficient. We live in a more stressful world where, the tiger's always chasing us. It's just on our text message and our phone. So we are burning through. And stress is also when you exercise. Stress is also an emotional stressor. Stress is being sick. So under any of those conditions, you need extra minerals at this point, right? Because we're burning through them faster. And this is one of the reasons I believe I'm seeing more and more people burnt out with low mineral status. It's much more common to see that even in children, even in teens, than to see high levels of minerals. So, but magnesium is just amazing. So, but mega dosing doesn't work because you need balance. So calcium.
What is mega dosing?
I'm taking 5,000 milligrams of magnesium a day, magnesium glycinate, or all the other there's like all the forms of magnesium.
So it's just taking a larger amount of magnesium, for instance.
Right. And if you're feeling better doing it, good, like keep at it. But I often see in a test, I'll see magnesium super high. I'm like, oh, you're supplementing. Tell me about your supplement because it isn't in your cell. Some of it might be getting in. Right. But again, if it's out of balance with other things, it's not going to be utilized as nature intended.
So you could be taking the supplement, you feel a little bit better, but systematically your body isn't using it the way it should be. And you can tell by those levels, right, in the samples.
Exactly. Is it in the cell or no? So is it being used? So magnesium, it regulates cortisol, it regulates adrenaline, it clears histamines. But I always think it does so much. But what depletes it? Stress, caffeine, alcohol, intense workouts, birth control pills, actually, sugar, pregnancy and breastfeeding, super stressful. It depletes all minerals, of course.
I feel like pregnancy and breastfeeding deplete everything out of the body.
It takes everything out of us. Right?
Yeah.
But that's a time to be really prior and then really to be cognizant of this. I wish I knew this information when I had my child, but I didn't. And I think I was taking electrolytes and things like that, but I didn't understand, which we'll get into a real way to replenish them. It's just, I think you feel tired after a lot of sleep or overwhelmed or like noise and stimulus really gets to you. That's like a magnesium deficiency. If your digestion is slow, maybe you have muscle spasms, cramps, twitches, and that can also be potassium, but it's also magnesium because they go together. You might have sleep problems. It can impact your cycle, like your estrogen and progesterone metabolism depend on magnesium. You might have painful periods, hormonal acne.
I really wish I paid attention in high school to this basic
chemistry class. Yeah.
Yeah.
The periodic table. Yeah. Me too. And so it's just interesting. So I think magnesium, I had a mentor of mine that said magnesium makes you feel safe in your own body.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah.
And I feel like a lot of people are told to take magnesium at night. Is there a reason for that?
Yeah, it helps calm. It's that calming mineral, master relaxer. So it does help.
As you're talking about these things, I'm writing notes to myself like, oh, I have those symptoms. My daughter has those symptoms. My parents. So eye-opening. How about the third unsung hero, sodium?
Yeah. So sodium and potassium, I love to talk about them together. They create the pump. And they dissolve. They're the solvents for the hard minerals like calcium and magnesium. So you need enough of them. but you need a really beautiful balance between sodium and magnesium because it creates the pump on the cell. And if you think you want the cells to open and take things in and let waste go out, like we need these in balance. And it's very, very common for me to see maybe sodium's okay enough, but potassium's so low. I mean, we're deficient, and this gets into why are we deficient? Our soil is not what it used to be. It's not robust.
The soil in which our food is grown in. Yeah.
We're eating. And you can look at studies of like a serving of green beans from 1970 to today, right? Like the levels of minerals and vitamins in there it's so depleted, which speaks to supplementation. My thing is focus on the minerals, and then you'll be able to use those bigger supplements, right? Because a lot of us were taking them, but our body can't even utilize them if like the sodium potassium pump is not.
Yeah. I love visuals. So if I think of a cell opening and closing, if that's not happening,
and you need sodium.
and I'm taking the supplement, my cell is not opening the doors to welcome that in, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That's a good way to understand
we
it.
have the whole other balance, but yes, in particular, sodium, potassium. So sodium is not the bad guy. It regulates our adrenals, our blood pressure, and our stomach acid. Stomach acid is a huge problem. That's because it's our line of defense against bacteria, but it's also how we break down our food to get it into the little amino acid chains that we can absorb and use. So we talk a lot about gut health issues and absorption issues and breaking down issues, but we need stomach acid. Sodium is one of the it's sodium and zinc make hydrochloric acid. So we really need sodium. So when you're low sodium, you're more dehydrated no matter how much water you drink.
Okay.
Because this whole drink, half your body weight in ounces and water, great intention. However, the water we're drinking, if it's filtered and bottled, often some minerals are stripped or they're not present. So we're actually diluting our mineral status and we're diluting our stomach acid. So this is why I think we are chronically dehydrated. I think it's great that we have this desire to have all these electrolytes in our world. People are onto something. This is true. But most of our electrolytes are sodium based, which we think good. I just said sodium's not a bad guy. Yes, this is true. But it's the quality of the sodium and it's within the balance and the ratios of the other trace minerals and macro minerals that are in there. So I'd rather have people take a really high quality salt themselves. And, we can put this in show notes too. I love Baja Gold. That's one. There's San Marina. Baltic sea salt, because real salt, you guys, comes from, rocks, and it's not just sodium. There are other minerals in there.
Is there synthetic sodiums out there?
Well, it's the table salt. It's just been stripped. It's been stripped. So people are like, I can't have salt because I have heart issues. And it's like, well, yes and no, right? Because again, go to the heart, the electrical conductivity of it. And do you have enough magnesium? We need the sodium though.
Yeah.
Part of the whole electrical charge, but we need it again in that balance with other minerals. So real salt is very good for you. So I actually have people in my protocols, wake up, you take a pinch of the high quality salt, put it on the back of your tongue, kind of let it melt and drink some water. That's way better to rehydrate yourself after sleeping than not. But, it's just, we feel chronically dehydrated and we are, but salt is a big part of it. So it's essential for our adrenal function. So sodium to potassium, that ratio, and on my, it's called a significant ratio when you look on my test, and that is our cellular vitality. That tells me the spark of electricity you have in your cell.
Between the sodium, potassium, is this the spark, the opening and the closing? Yeah. Okay.
It's indicative of your system's energy.
Yeah. Because if that's not working, you don't have any energy. How's your body going to function normally, or any of your systems really, right?
Exactly.
So it's a domino effect.
Yeah. And this also informed me as a nutritionist. So I have done my share of detox and elimination diets, and we want to support the body in what it naturally does, which is detoxify every single day, but forcing it to do a little more strong when the body's energy reserves are low, when maybe minerals are low and depleted, that's not a time to have someone who's ready for detox. So usually I have yet to see one in about 3 years where my initial test showed someone ready to detox.
Wow.
My initial tests, but look, people are coming to me because they know they don't feel great, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Usually because you're like, oh, I feel awesome and I just want to see where I am. Actually, sometimes I get teens because their parents make them come. Anyway, And they're like, I don't know why I'm here, But I joke because even with them, I see depleted states and we wouldn't know, but how great for them to find out earlier and we can start shoring that up. But usually on someone's retest, we'll see, more vibrant mineral status and that cellular energy. Okay, now it's not that I even have to say, now let's go on a detox. What I'll start to see is the heavy metals start to pop up because your body's like, I can handle this now. I got this. So the aluminum, the mercury, the arsenic, whatever, the cadmium, it starts popping out of the cell. Whereas our body,
Which is what you want, right? That in that case, because it's getting rid of the waste. The things that you shouldn't have in your body. You do not want metals in your body.
Yeah, it's storing it. Our bodies, again, like remember I talked calcium puts that shell in times of stress around that. Well, and we take these heavy metals and we sequester them away so they're not going to do harm. Hopefully they're usually in, fat, or I would call fat or bubble wrap, and it's, helping us. But then your body, I see it all the time. And when people's energy levels go up on the minerals, then they start to detoxify. Then if we
naturally, like the way the body's supposed to.
It's the energy. So it's like, I'll do this now. And then if we want to do more further detox to really support something that we know is hidden there or we see signs of, then we might do that. But I'm sorry, that was like a whole pathway back to sodium. But sodium is just so misunderstood. So it also helps your nervous system through your blood pressure regulation. And that's why people think don't take sodium because of blood pressure and heart stuff. But again, it's the type of salt. And I think when it's low, you drink water, but you're thirsty. You're dizzy when you stand up. That's a big one. Salty cravings. That's, you feel that faintness, that weakness.
Check.
Yeah, that low blood pressure, that faint, the wired but tired too. That could be a low sodium sign. Yeah, it's you might also pee a lot. You might have low blood sugar in between meals. Minerals are connected to blood sugar as well. We can see that.
Well, it sounds like they're connected to so many things.
It's everything. That unsung hero. Minerals are the spark plugs for every reaction in the body, in the cell. But when you see low sodium, for example, you almost always see low potassium.
Let's talk about potassium.
I just want to say cutting salt when you're depleted, it makes everything worse, right? Yeah.
But the right salt, to your point.
Right. So when I get people to add just salt in, they'll be like, gosh, my brain's working again. I feel more vibrant. Like my exercise is better. They feel better. I mean, it could just be a little bit of salt. But yes, potassium. Another mentor called potassium the queen. But it is needed for thyroid hormone sensitivity. So when we look at thyroid labs, TSH doesn't tell us a whole lot, but we want like the T3, the T4, the TPO, all of that. But what we want to see is, if you might be making the thyroid hormone, but if that potassium is low, it can't get into the cell. You need potassium.
Okay, that makes sense.
For thyroid health. Right. And it's also potassium, again, connected to nervous system, your blood sugar and your pancreas and insulin signaling. It's your heart rhythms. If it's low, you might have brain fog, mood swings, fatigue. Sounds like most of our population. So it's the third most abundant mineral inside the cell. And women are so deficient.
In potassium?
Yes.
Okay.
And men too. I also do men, and they're also usually, but I see it chronically. I can even like have a young woman, but as soon as they've had pregnancy and a birth, you just get so depleted. And I think we just go through life and we never really shore it up and we're always behind. And that's when then disease starts to creep in and those chronic conditions and the fatigue and all of this stuff. And again, our blood remains stable. Like, for example, your blood pH can't change that much or we die. So our system is very good about keeping that stable, but it's going to leach things like minerals from the bones and muscle tissue and wherever it can to shore that up. I love looking at the hair for the minerals because the better place to see it. There are some things that are better in blood labs like iron and lead and things like that. For the most part, minerals and heavy metals are great to see in hair.
Blood is just a snapshot of that day, that moment versus the hair, which shows kind of what's been going on in the body over several months, which I think is really interesting. The mineral patterning.
Yeah, it's like, it just shows us what's really like sticking. Right? Where are you trending? And that's also what we look for on retests. Where are you trending? Are we trending higher, lower, more in balance? All of that. So potassium also, it regulates your blood sugar because it moves glucose into the cell alongside insulin. So potassium, I have some clients that have problems with water retention, and you see it here a lot, kidney stuff. And they're doing their protocols and they're using their sodium and they're doing their foot soaks and all the things that I have them do. But often if they're puffy, or retaining water somewhere, they don't have enough potassium. It's that pump. And so they just increase potassium. We do it through potassium broth. There is a drink you can get called pickleball, but instead of being a salt-based electrolyte, it is a heavy potassium base. But sometimes, hey, we all have busy lifestyles and we can't eat perfectly. So, but that alone will help someone regulate that, and then their puffiness goes away. So, and then it's helping with your blood sugar. It's helping with dehydration, detox, nervous system. So sometimes with the potassium being depleted, you might feel the wired feeling, drained, unstable moods, like irritable and moody, constipation, again, fluid retention, heart palpitations, twitching and palpitations, a lot to do with potassium. Carbohydrate cravings are common. Shaky in between meals, that low blood sugar because of its function with insulin. Why do we get this? We get depleted because of high stress, low carb diets. So this is, the whole carnivore and keto thing, which can really be healing. But I see with extreme diets, whether it's vegan or carnivore or whatever it might be, especially with women, and this goes with fasting too, we need carbohydrates. Part of this is the mineral replenishment, and we're more sensitive to it being depleted. And certain types of times in our cycle are not good for these things. But again, if you're doing those low carb diets, we need breaks, need to refuel, and carbohydrates aren't evil. Neither is one element of our food. I try not to villainize, and I've done all the things, you guys. I've done no gluten, I've done no dairy for like a decade. I've done a lot of things. So it's different if you have celiacs or lactose intolerance. It's different. But my point is, it's kind of like, it's the moderation piece to a degree. The carbohydrates are a big source of our potassium, so we have to be mindful. But also, why do we deplete in potassium? Maybe you're taking diuretics, you're on birth control. Again, that excess caffeine, eating, dehydration, excessive sweating, and it's hard to get potassium in supplement form. So even in my work, even though I know we really need about 4,700 milligrams of potassium a day, they don't recommend to get most of that in a supplement. It really has to be through food. That's just where the body, it's bioavailable. It's in ratios where it's going to be utilized. Sometimes you can take things for a while, but maybe it's not what we want to rely on. Supplements are supposed to be supplemental.
Yeah.
Our diet. And I think in the holistic and nutrition world, we're guilty of, like we say in Western medicine, there's a pill for every ill. But that could be said, right, in the holistic world.
Yeah.
It's just a vitamin. And who has a vitamin graveyard in their cabinet? Like I do.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, and take a lot of them.
Taking a lot of them doesn't always necessarily mean it a good thing, because they could not be working together. To your point before, my cells could be closed out, and so therefore my body's not absorbing them. They could also have synthetic things in them. So it's really, really important to make sure that you're using a company that you trust, and you're reading the labels and making sure you're having the right doses, and that there aren't fillers and lots of crap, because there's so many supplement companies out there that are good and are also maybe not as good.
Really, so many not as good. It's funny, third class in my course, I teach a course called the Wellness Blueprint, which kind of distills everything I've learned over my decades in this world. And the third one's on supplementation and how difficult that is and what do we really need. But again, I'm more focused on minerals at this point, but for some of the vitamins. And there's the whole new reports coming out on buying your vitamins from Amazon. I don't know if everyone's seen that. So have you seen that?
I just did, yes, that they're
making fake. So the label might look the same. And the people that are...
This is so scary.
Yeah, it's very scary. So the companies that are making it, they're selling on Amazon, right? But there are counterfeits, and they make the label look just like it. The pill might even look just like it, but you're getting nothing, right? At best, you're getting nothing. So, it's tough. So it could be even a really reputable brand. The best thing to do is buy from the source, or buy from I know of one that's popping in my head. Naturally Healthy Concepts is one, but I have a full script account. A lot of practitioners have that, where you can get the high quality stuff coming from the brand, so you know that you're getting the real deal. I mean, I've even heard this on Amazon with shampoos. I went down a whole rabbit hole on non-toxic shampoos, and I was trying to find one that I loved. And then I kept reading deeper and deeper into reviews, and I'm don't get it from Amazon. It is not the one that I bought originally.
It's the same thing for the essential oil company that I purchase things through. You're not supposed to get it even though it's cheaper, but that's the whole point. They're trying to get people to say, I'm not going to buy it through Diana. I'm actually just going to go on Amazon and get it cheaper when in fact it's a synthetic essential oil or supplement or one of their products that aren't actually coming from the company, but they're greenwashed, and there's a label put on something that's half the price because it's half the quality.
Yeah, exactly. We should be skeptical if it's cheap, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's so much cheaper.
So check your sources, and yeah, that's scary. Going back, I'm just really curious, when you take a test, when you do this hair sample test, what can one expect? Do you have a sample report?
Yeah. Yes. We can share one if you'd like.
Yeah.
So what to expect is to expect a different language that you've never heard before, because I always say to take people, it takes you a little bit of listening. Yeah, here's a great example. So on the top, it tells your slow 3. It's metabolism. Are you slow or fast? That means, does your body burn through things slowly or quickly? Fast and slow isn't better or worse than the other person. We always think, oh, I want a fast metabolism. It doesn't always mean you're skinny. It doesn't necessarily mean it means you burn through your minerals really fast. Kids tend to be fast oxidizers, and we tend to get slower. When these tests were originally done about 40, 50 years ago, they used to see the population was 50-50, slow and fast, even as adults. Now it's about 80 to 90% slow oxidation, and I think that's just because of all the stressors in our environment. It slows us down because it depletes our minerals, and when minerals are depleted, things don't work so well, and we slow down. So in this case, you look at this person, and magnesium sky high. So immediately I go, oh, you are supplementing with magnesium. Yes, you are, but it is not in the cell. And so it is getting excreted into soft tissue.
And high is not good. In any case here, you want your minerals to sort of be in the middle.
That middle of the weight range is reference range for a normal rate of loss, the average. However, there are things when I just look at this test, if you take that just with a glance of your eye, the top, you just go, all the other minerals are pretty much below reference line. It's pretty low.
That's this line right here.
Yeah. So you just kind of look at it, step back and go, they're pretty low. This person's on their pathway to depletion. That's the trend. And then sometimes when you see these high doesn't mean high. And I have to say something about if you ever get an HTMA done, that's what this is called, hair tissue mineral analysis. You have to get it from a practitioner who's been adequately trained, not just like takes the data from the company that didn't take you and your lifestyle into consideration. So I have a very in-depth intake. I need to know what your diet was like as a child. I need to know, especially what it's like now, your water system. I need to know your lifestyle. I need a lot of information. I need your birth control history because copper impacts that, as we kept hearing in those minerals. Fascinating, right? So I need a lot of information, and then it can help me interpret this. This is definitely an art. I'm lucky to have been trained by some incredible people, naturopathic doctors and other functional diagnostic nutritionists and MDs, like people that have done this for decades. So I use them as my mentors, and I do case review with them because it's such an art. I always want other thinking. This person's sodium, it looks like, oh, it's not bad. It's almost mid-range. Potassium's right up there with it. But when I go down and you go look, if you can go to the next page, significant ratios. So this tells us organ systems. The first one's calcium to phosphorus, and that tells us about your nervous system. Are you more in fight or flight or rest and digest? But this is a great example. So you look at sodium, potassium, doesn't look that bad, but I got to go look at the ratios because it's going to tell me about that cellular vitality. So then I look at that sodium to potassium, NAK, and it's low. So the cellular vitality.
And that's what we were talking about before with the connection, the pump.
Although her ratios of the two weren't too out of whack, it's low overall. So the electrical potential in that cell is lower. Now, I have to say, this one's not too bad. I often see it barely on the chart. Then we have calcium.
And is that then when you see something like that, you say, okay, that's the first thing we should address, right? Because
again, it all goes back to calcium, magnesium, sodium, and potassium.
It's all four.
The other minerals there that are going to it's going to help me be a detective. It's going to help me go, is this a loss in the cell or is it truly low? Because that's what I want to understand. Because I'm trying to see, is that sodium and potassium being low in the cell and there's not enough? Or is it being pushed out of the cell because it can't get used in the cell?
And you can tell that all through this?
Well, you're a detective. If you have blood labs too, you can plug them. I plug them into functional medicine ranges and we can correlate them. I don't need your bloods, but it's great when I have them because it either validates or it helps you go in a different direction. But usually this is pretty spot on. So that tells me that calcium to phosphorus, the first one is nervous system. Calcium is sedative. Phosphorus is excitatory. So if that's a super high level, that would be you're in rest, digest, and freeze. Which
is that fight or flight? Is that, yeah?
No, fight or flight is
opposite.
Sympathetic, and that would be low. That would be seen low on there, and that's more of a fast oxidizer. This also helps me know, are you slow or fast? I actually think this person used to be a fast oxidizer and they're burning out. So I'm seeing them mid-process. Then we have calcium to potassium, which is CAK. That's thyroid because you need that potassium in connection to that calcium and how they support the thyroid. Now, I also want to look at iodine. I want to look at selenium because those are other cofactors with thyroid too. So I would look back there. Zinc to copper is your progesterone to estrogen. It's your hormones. And NAMG, that's another one, that's sodium to magnesium. That's your adrenal glands. And again, I almost see what I see here on almost everybody, and they're pretty burnt out. They're one of the first things to go because sodium gets used in stress, and and magnesium also. They're usually depleted, and that's a sign of adrenal fatigue.
We see that inverse relationship between the zinc and what was
Hormones can be wonky, to be honest.
Okay.
It can be all over the place.
Because if your adrenals are shot, because your adrenals,
your hormones are off.
Then your hormones are definitely off, right? Oh, they can't function correctly because your body's first working towards your adrenals to balance those out. Is that correct?
Yes, it's working on all the cellular things, but you make a great point. So when your minerals start to get depleted, we have things the body has to do, like your heart and your lungs.
Yeah.
And some things in your liver and all indigestion and all of that. But what it's not going to do when you start to get depleted, your nails aren't going to be so strong. Your hair might start to fall out. And that's where we see baldness or hair loss. Skin might not be so fabulous because we can function without great skin, hair, and nails, right? Even your gut, if you don't have enough minerals on board, it might be like, yeah, I want to get there and repair you, but I got to go help the heart here. We got to beat. My brain has to work. So yeah.
So your cells are almost prioritizing what is absolutely necessary. And those other things you just mentioned, they're like the chores in the house. You'll get to them eventually. Yeah.
Yes, that's well put. So it's fascinating. This is again why I love minerals. It's just incredible. And then we have calcium to magnesium, and that's blood sugar. That's how our blood sugar is monitored. And that person's low, which means high blood sugar. And I happen to know with this person, their markers, their A1C, their triglycerides, they are insulin resistant, which I tend to see again. And that is the perimenopausal shift because we're less sensitive to insulin as the estrogen declines, and then we're out of balance we have so many false estrogens in the world through plastics and all that other stuff. There's this whole thing, but it impacts, I can see it with blood sugar here. And then iron to copper, which is Fe to Cu, that's infection. And so if that is off for me, I'd want to look deeper into blood labs, but that's a sign that your gut is probably off. And then I'll go back up to the main minerals. I'll look at your zinc. So remember, zinc and sodium are connected to hydrochloric acid. If someone's really telling me they have this crazy history of constipation and loose stools and constant bloating and a lot of GI distress, then I might be okay. You know what? We're going to work on some things. And if we don't improve much, then we probably do want a GI map, which is a stool test. And then we do want to dig in deeper there and really know what's going on there. Pathogens are there. Because pathogens will also take parasites and other pathogens like H. pylori. They're going to take minerals.
It's also so fascinating. And I'm clearly after this going to have to sign up and do this analysis with you for myself, because so many of these things you're mentioning are things that I'm experiencing, and I would love to see what my levels look like.
It's another reason I chose this test. The test itself is not that expensive. It's about $75. And in the functional medicine world, where you're often paying out of pocket anyway, a super comprehensive blood panel can cost $500, $600, $700, $800.
Yes, easily.
And I've done HTMAs before. I've done everything. Another thing I just feel very protective for my clients. We shouldn't have to drain our bank accounts to, I understand our medical system is kind of broken, and what insurance pays for isn't, in my opinion, what true health is about. And a lot of us understand that after you go through the traditional medical system and you're not feeling any better and you're doing all the things or going on the medications. So you start to go into this world of like, how can I heal myself or help my body, or what holistic or functional practitioner can help me, right? But then it's at a cost because insurance doesn't cover it. These people won't get reimbursed by insurance because it's not considered the standard of care. So when I found HTMA to be this diagnostic, I love it because it's not that expensive. It gives you a benchmark and it's also not hard to collect. So I send you a kit and there's this little scale. It's paper and you fold it and it makes a little teeter-totter scale. And you need a teaspoon of hair. So it's easy to
Yeah. Test you can do at home and then just send out.
versus going to a lab, and also for kids better than like they don't want to get their blood drawn too. So I love it for
Can you use like HSA funds or flex spending money to pay for the test and also your evaluation?
some people can get the test. My evaluation, no, because
No, okay.
it's that
That's that out-of-pocket cost, right? I'm an everyday person, and I would read this, and this is foreign to me. I would no idea. I wouldn't even try to understand, right? That's where the expert comes in and is orchestrating and making sense of all these things.
Yeah.
We talked a little bit earlier about where we can get minerals, and we talked a little bit about food. And so back in the day, way before we were here, food quality was obviously a lot better and soil had the nutrients that it needed. I think the thought process of I'm going to just eat better food isn't really going to help, right?
yes and no. So a large part of my protocol, if we look in household, metals will also rob minerals. So here, this person, they're slow and they're getting depleted, so they're not going to have a big detox reaction. Pink side on the right is where I would see it, but they're showing arsenic. They're a little bit of aluminum, a little bit of lead, a little bit of cadmium, a little bit of mercury, beryllium, arsenic, uranium. She's got a little of everything, but we're showing the arsenic. So that's leaking out. So that means there's constant exposure. I often see this with aluminum because the use of aluminum foil, tin cans, things like that. So aluminum can be in deodorant, it can be it's in vaccines, it's in a whole host of things. And aluminum is super neurotoxic, so that's another thing. Arsenic is a little more like, it's inherent in rice, for example. It comes in soil. So, but that makes me go, okay, you're getting constantly exposed to this, or it wouldn't be popping out in this state.
So then you figure out what is causing that.
We try to figure that out. And then we also put someone on a binder. I really am a lover of binders. People are like, what's a binder? Charcoal. We've kind of heard, you OD and you go to the ER, they pump you full of charcoal. Yes, it binds to everything, minerals included. Binds to toxins, it binds to minerals. So, and charcoal can be a great thing to take, activated coconut charcoal to have on hand if your stomach's a little off. I got the stomach bug, ate some bad food. Kid went to a birthday party, they're acting crazy. So you just ingested all these food dyes and artificial sweeteners. Charcoal is great, but you don't want to take it long term. It dehydrates because it's also stripping mineral, right?
Okay.
It's 30 minutes before food or supplements or 2 hours after. You have to take it away from your stuff, but it's a great thing to have on hand, but it is not the day-to-day binder. Knowing someone's status and what they're working on. One thing I love is called Pectasol, Pectasol, and Pectasol is citrus pectin. It also has affinity not just for getting in the gut and binding, it's getting into the bloodstream. It has potassium in it. It's supporting gallbladder health. Like it does a lot. It's great. And it's gentle. You can use it for long term. You can use it with kids. So that's a good binder. But there's also humic fulvic acid. I don't know if anyone's heard of that, but it's becoming more well known. There is a company called Beam, BEAM Minerals. I have no affiliation with them, but I use them. And you can listen to, her name is Caroline Allen, Allen, I believe. And she's on podcasts and things like that. And she's the founder, and she was corporate, but she's like a mineral geek and just went down to understand how to heal her body and how much that healed. But humic and fulvic acid, it's digging deep into the earth where there's no glyphosate residue, where there's the old soil that is full and rich in minerals. That is the humic fulvic acid. And one is a natural binder and the other is the natural minerals within balance. So I have found Beam Minerals something pretty easy for families to do, kids involved. You drink it and you can put it, it's fine to drink on its own, but you can put it in water as well. So that's an easy one for everybody listening that could do themselves. And the other thing to shore up your minerals,
That's pretty easy, right? can do a foot soak. But what are you soaking your foot in?
I'll drop a link in your show notes for people.
Okay.
It is magnesium chloride, which we all know Epsom salt, but that's magnesium sulfate, which helps with detoxifying the cell with that magnesium, which is fine to use if that's what you have too. But magnesium chloride is known for increasing the cellular level of magnesium. So you have that in conjunction with potassium bicarbonate, because again, there's that potassium, and then a bit of borax, which is boron, which most people know as K2 or MK7. It shuttles the mineral into the cell. It like helps open the door to get the minerals in. So you soak in that. I like to do the combination versus just the magnesium. Yes, you can get a benefit. What I have seen is if I do the foot soak, but I'm not taking enough sodium in, I might get really sleepy. Or if I just do the magnesium because I ran out of the other stuff and that's all I had. Again, I'm not going to feel as good as if I do all together. So the foot soaks, there's a ratio and I give you the sources to get.
Great.
You want to use filtered water. You also don't want to soak in a plastic basin because we don't want more microplastics coming up, and they also block minerals and all that stuff.
A silly question, but what would you soak your feet in? That's what we always do.
Glass or stainless steel. So I actually have to a stainless steel basin. And a little note on that. So when I was talking about aluminum before and how I see it very often, it's in cookware a lot. And then when we heat something up, it's going to get more leached. It's going to get more into the food. We're going to ingest more of it. But one of the reasons is we think we're using stainless steel baking sheets. We think we're stainless steel pans, but you can put a magnet on your stainless steel. And if that does not stick, it is not stainless, it's aluminum. And a lot of times they're combos. It has aluminum in it, but stainless steel coated, that's like an all-clad pan. Then you're good, but the magnet will stick to stainless steel.
So you want the magnet to stick.
Because that means it's real stainless versus aluminum or primarily aluminum. So that's one of the things I have to get out of people's lives if we see constant aluminum exposure, because aluminum is neurotoxic. There is no safe amount in the human body. It's not dose makes the poison.
Yeah.
A little bit debunked in the heavy metal world. But it's also interesting, heavy metals and minerals, and going back to science class, the periodic table, if you're in the same column, the minerals and metals, like that, if you don't have enough of the mineral, the metal goes, I'm pretty close to that. I'm going to kick you out. I'll sit here. I'll sit on this. I'll sit on the cell. And I'll do some of your functions, but it's blocking that mineral.
Oh, so interesting.
You want to give the body the minerals to kick those metals out.
Yeah.
That's detox.
And I'm gonna have an episode specific to just cleaners and detoxing the home, but there's so many avenues within the home that you can take a look at. You mentioned even just the use of aluminum foil, which I've really, really pulled back on because I noticed a difference in my body when we were using it quite a lot, and especially in the summertime when you're grilling. But I have never put a magnet to my pots or my trays, so I will be doing that.
Baking sheets, I think they're the biggest. Then off Amazon, I did get some stainless and my magnet does stick. So, and then they're easy. I don't need to put the parchment paper down. I can just put, whatever healthy, high, stable fat, I like to use tallow or grass-fed butter, mainly coconut oil, right on the pan and cook it. And it's easy.
What about bone broth?
Yeah, I love bone broth. But again, you have to do that investigative work. How was that cow treated? Was it fed grass its whole life? Was it shot up with things? You have to know the integrity of the brand.
Okay. Do you have brands that you recommend?
I do like Fond, F-O-N-D.
Okay.
I know a lot of people was that Kettle and Fire, but I personally haven't called the company and done all my researching on that one, so I'm not quite sure. There's Bonafide, DE freezer section on that one. Funny story about that one. I found it years ago, like 10 years ago, and I could only get it from Canada, and I was getting it shipped to my house. And then one of my friends goes, you can get that at Whole Foods. No. Yeah. So now you can get it.
But you were going right to the source, right?
Yeah,
which is ideally what you want to do.
Yeah. Nicer when I can just get it in the freezer section of my grocery store.
One question going back to the foot soaks. Can you soak in a bath with those ingredients? Is that okay and safe?
Yes, thank you. Absolutely. You just want 4 times the amount. So I use roughly a quarter cup in the foot soaks, and you'd want 1 cup of each.
And what about for kids? Is it safe to do that with kids? Because that's a great way. You're not going to have them. I mean, my kids, 9 and 6, are not going to swallow pills, but they're going to take a bath. And so just pouring those things in, they're not going to know a difference.
Yeah, 100%. So we love to use baths, foot soaks too, but baths are more usually what they'll do. And you can add like apple cider vinegar if they're sick and other things to that. The other thing to do is use topical forms like magnesium lotion.
Okay.
Magnesium oil. So I use this every day. I use it on my child, put on the bottoms of their feet. Part of when I give you my foot soak link, I explain why foot soaks and why the bottom of your feet for foot soaks or for even putting your cream on is the biggest pores.
Yep.
Everything gets really absorbed through there. But you can even think of Chinese medicine on all the map of the bottom of the feet too.
Yeah. And my mom is a reflexologist, so I grew up learning that your body is representative on your foot. So we always, and with essential oils too, we always started on the feet because then your body knew what to do with it and knew what system to use with it, which is pretty incredible.
It is. The human body is incredible.
Yeah.
So I love to use topical magnesium. I do use it as my deodorant because one of the reasons we smell is magnesium deficiency. But if you've just shaved, FYI, it will sting. So be careful. I use it on the bottom of my feet. I might go up my legs. I might, if I'm sore or my kidney area or my digestion's slow, I might even be like rubbing it into my belly. I might put it in my neck if I'm getting a headache or here and I'm just rubbing it in. So I like the lotion better than the oil. But one of the reasons if it makes you itchy is that that's supposedly a sign of magnesium deficiency. Because you're itchy. And the more you use it, the less. I don't
itchy.
And I used to, and I don't anymore. But so I use that as my deodorant too. And I'm like, oh, good, more magnesium because I know I'm burning through it. But of course, I'm making sure I'm using my good salt as well.
Yeah.
Another one that's not great to supplement with. It can create constipation, other issues. We can get it through food pretty easily with most diets. So again, I'll go back to some of the basics for dietary, for nutrient density, and bone broth, if you eat animal, is a big helper.
For the calcium?
For everything. Full amino acids. If you just change, I've seen people with like gut health issues, like really bad guts, like just adding half a cup to a cup of bone broth every morning for like 2 weeks, and they're wildly different.
Oh, wow.
In the intestine. So gelatin is another one of my hacks, but you got to get a good gelatin.
I've never tried.
Yeah, you can make so gelatin comes as a powder. It's like different than collagen, similar but different. And you put the powder, it's like 1 tablespoon to a half cup of water. And then you let it become the gel, like Jell-O, right? And then you can put that in anything. You put that in your coffee. It's 10 to 11 grams of protein. It's got your full amino acids. You can put it in soups and desserts. You can do in whipped cream. I mean, a whole host of things. And it's lovely. I love using gelatin. And roast, like cuts of meat that are gelatinous, like those long, slow roasts. They're not also the most expensive cuts of meat, which is great. You might add carrots and celery and all that other stuff to it. Again, minerals. And then those gelatinous cuts of meat are so nourishing for the body. Those are other little things, and they're great for thyroid health. Thyroid loves warmth. Because if you're hypothyroid, low thyroid, which most of us are, we're cold hands. Mm-hmm. So we want to create warmth. So one of the biggest things in the morning I always tell people is warm. You want warm stuff, not like your cold smoothie.
Yeah.
I used to be a total smoothie.
I just finished my cold smoothie.
Yeah. But then have a warm cup of tea or something.
Well, now I'm going to incorporate that bone broth.
Yeah. I give all these resources for my clients and in my course as well, too, because half the battle of being healthy is having the time to do the research.
Yeah.
Like me, to go the rabbit holes, to try the things, to figure out what's worth it. I mean, I was recently told by someone who took my class, was like, class is great, but the resources.
And that's why you turn to this podcast, so you can listen, for an hour and get like all these little tidbits, right? A bone broth, a foot soak that could, change how you feel day to day, or your family or your kids. Like that stuff is life changing.
Topical magnesium. And like I'll see clients, and let's say there's some are friends, right? And I see like a husband, this has happened 2 times recently. The husband's like, yeah, I love those foot soaks. I'm sleeping so much better. I'm like, what? Like like, no, right? But it becomes like a family thing. And I love that. Self-care, it can be very calming if you do it at end of day, and you can incorporate red light, all the things.
All the things. Well, this was so helpful and so informational, Katie. Thank you for sharing your wisdom. And who really knew that minerals could be so interesting and tell us so much about what's going on in our bodies. So really, I'm walking away with so much insight. And if you're listening and this has sparked something in you, maybe it's time to look beneath the surface. So whether it's through testing, like Katie talked about, changing your morning routine, or simply just being more aware of what your body is telling you, these small steps can make a huge difference. And as always, you can find more information and connect with Katie through the links in my show resources, and we'll have tons and tons today. But for those that are listening, Katie, how can they best connect with you?
Instagram is probably where you'll see most of me, and I'm at KDLIN12. And so we'll put that there. That's where you'll see I share only really health information because it is me.
Yeah.
It is my passion and it's everything I'm about. So that's where people say, I've really learned about you there. And through there, you can find my links to this better website, and the Foot Soak link will bring you there to all of my resources. And with me, you can do the course, which I created that to be accessible for everybody because I understand not everyone has the resources to have private testing and protocols made, but I also create different levels so someone can just get a snapshot, which would be you get your labs, do an intake and get the results in a video. And if you want more support after that, you ask for it and schedule. Or my full program is called The Balanced Way. And that's where I walk people through 4 months, and there's a lot of support, and there's touch base, and there's group education as well. So lots of ways you can get help for kids as well. But I do love the course because you'll learn so much.
Yeah.
The foundations of health, which is what I teach all my clients in.
And something that you can use way beyond just that 4-month period, which is great. So before we go, Katie, do you have any additional thoughts before we close today?
I think it's, trust your gut. If you're listening to this and things are going ding, 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 just that's a sign. But don't get overwhelmed by trying to be perfect. The pursuit of health can also, and I'm guilty of this, to be like so perfect around it. That's a disorder in itself, right? And that's robbing us of the energy. We cannot heal in a stressed state.
Yeah.
And I think we just explained why you're burning through minerals like crazy in a stress state. And stress can be that internal emotional thing. I'm always a big one in terms of mindset about talk more about what you want, less about what you don't want. Like always what you want. Like I want to have more energy today because maybe I'm feeling tired. In terms of your body, thank your body. I always thank your body for all you do for me. So I always like to say, thank your body every day. Say, thank you for all you do for me. And just validate and think about, like, my body can heal. My body has wisdom. What do I need to know, body? What do you need from me? What can I do for you? And I think that just act of like talking about and thinking about the fact that you can heal, the fact that your body is strong and vibrant, even if you're in a season of sickness.
Yeah.
Like, what can I do for you? And talk nicely to yourself and your body, because I know we don't always do that. That matters almost just as much as all of this knowledge and all the things we can do.
Yeah. Your mindset is a huge part of all of that, for sure. Well, thank you so much.
It was fun.
And we'll talk soon, everyone. Take care. Bye. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Women's Wellness Authority. If today's conversation inspired you, shifted your perspective, or sparked something within you, I'd be so grateful if you'd subscribe, leave a review, or share this episode with someone who might need it the most. Have a story of your own or something you'd like to share? I'd love to hear from you. You can connect with me on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook at Women's Wellness Authority. Please note the content shared on this podcast is for informational purposes only and is not a substitute for medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always consult with a qualified healthcare provider regarding your health and wellness decisions. Until next time, stay curious, stay empowered, and most of all, stay well. Thanks, everyone.